effective consumption of goods and services. Again, because of a geographical location, if they set up their business here, they have the advantage of the logistics of movements of goods. So Trinidad and Tobago has that attractiveness. What we need to ensure is that attractiveness, which is God-given, is translated into a practical implementation, because our people are educated, developed, they have a proper work ethic, and therefore any investor who is looking for a place to invest would say, okay, let's go to Trinidad. You know, we have a stable political situation here in Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, no mind, from time to time you have all these
but all countries
infighting.
But all countries
all countries in the world would have that. But, you know, we have a good judiciary system and so forth. So the attributes are here.
Is our market size still an issue for investors? Or does our ability or do our advantages in terms of relatively cheap energy supply, pretty stable political environment, geographical location, infrastructure, IC technology, etc., working in our favor compared to our size?
Well, you know, our infrastructure, I think this is where we are lagging behind, you know, both in terms of the road network, both in terms of your ports and that sort of situation. So we really need to work on that, and we need to ensure that our people who work in these areas understand the need for high productivity level. Once we can get those things going, I think we would be extremely competitive.
I'm glad you brought up the issue of high productivity levels. Is that concept, is that paradigm enough in the national discourse? Given, I looked at a documentary yesterday on China and the challenge they're facing is not productivity, but in terms of bridging what they call a middle class gap at this point with the country's economy growing and people's lifestyles growing. That is not our issue. Mm-hmm. We have several issues on the industrial relations, industrial labor front that can, if resolved, bode well for us in terms of our productivity levels and our competitive levels. How seriously are we, or should we be taking that issue now in terms of moving our country forward on a global scale with where interest is concerned?
Yeah, I think we have to really not only recognize it, but take the necessary action to implement it. Again, we at AMCHAM have been talking now for years about that kind of partnership between government and labor. And we had pointed to what transpires in Barbados and in Jamaica to a lesser extent. I sincerely believe that it is the way to go, that you establish an organization which incorporates representatives of government, labor, civil society, and that you have openness in terms of your budget, in terms of your expenditure, that the government would indicate, look, this is the realistic revenue that we would be getting. Now, how do we utilize that revenue to expand and improve the economy? Where do we go in terms of wages? Do we increase wages? Does the fact of increased wage really transform to higher productivity? Or does the fact of a low wage make the private sector more competitive? All of these things, we can look around and see what is transpiring. You take a place like Haiti, where wages are extremely low. But have we seen Haiti as a giant commercial entity? The answer is no. So therefore, what we have to look at is, what is a fair wage for a fair day's work? And once you can come to that sort of realization, then I think we would be very much on the way to progress.
Well, one of the things that's worked for Panama is the engagement of labor in a non-antagonistic manner, in a proactive manner, as opposed to deadlocks reached when negotiating for retroactively. And that's one of our challenges.
Yeah, well, you know, it is a challenge, but it is a challenge that can, in my view, be easily overcome. And that can be done by way of the openness to which I referred. Because if you have a situation whereby labor is saying to itself and to the community, hey, we don't trust these guys, they are not telling us the truth. And on the other hand, the government is saying, look, these guys out there, all they want to do is to get as much as they can for their workers without commensurate productivity. Then you're not going to make any progress. So the parties need to get together to put the cards on the table. Government, this is the revenue. These are the priority areas. Let's discuss them. Labor may say, well, no, instead of building a bridge there, why don't you put down a road at this other side of the country? And give the reasons why. And at the end of it all, both parties can come to an agreement. That's the kind of dialogue which is required.
Well, it's called inclusiveness, Mr. Howard. Thank you for being with us.
My
One day,
pleasure.
hopefully, we'll get there. We've been talking to Hugh Howard, president of AMCHAM News. This next was going to stay with us.